You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
Welcome back to The Whole Truth podcast. I'm Paul Armstrong. I've been talking to Nick Holthouse. He's the Managing Director of Mont Royal. Mont has just resumed trading on the ASX. As we recorded this, the company owns the Ashram rare earths project in Canada. If timing is everything in business, Nick and his peers' timing could not be better. Rare earths is obviously front and centre of not just the resources sector, but the geopolitical debate, the discussions between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. It's all about rare earths. They are essential components of so many high technology applications, particularly in the defence industry. And the issue is Ashram has the rare earths the Western world needs. These are the same sort of products that China has its foot on. The race is on to develop these projects. Ashram has been sitting dormant for 15 years. Nick tells us how such a big project with such quality can be in that state. It's principally because A, rare earths prices haven't been booming, and B, the company needs a road to develop the project, to join it to port and the like. None of those would seem to be big hurdles in the context of what's happening in the world by any stretch. Nick tells us what he's doing for that. He's put his hand up for government support, which seems to be very much on offer from the Canadian government at the moment. He takes us through why the project's good, what they know about the resource, what he's doing to unlock this value in a very timely fashion. It's a fantastic discussion because, as I say, it's front and centre of the discussion around the world. Nick, do you feel like you've the planet's aligning here for you perfectly? You've walked into this company, you've taken the job as MD, the world's screaming out for what this company's got. You're in the box seat. Life really couldn't be much better, could it, for a mining exec?
Look, with regards to timing for a launch, no, you're absolutely dead right. It's the planets have certainly aligned in this case. Over the past 12 months, while this transaction's been moving along, it's been a long and painful transaction. I've only come in at the back end of it, but we're just about there. We're only days away from getting this thing wrapped up and relisting. So very much looking forward to that. But you're dead right. We've launched into an absolute ripping thermal, and we're getting swept along with that. The thematics behind the whole rare earth story are just huge at the moment. They've been off a little bit this week with some softening on the Chinese side with regards to the trade war which has been building up over the past months with between them and the US in particular. But the thematic doesn't change, and the Chinese will certainly be back. It's only a short-term blip, I think, with regards to a softening of the price, but great time to launch. We're really excited to be bringing this.
Other mining execs must be green with envy. I mean, even the gold guys have had a glorious run, albeit a bit softer, as you say, in recent days. Other mining execs, your peers must be looking at this and thinking, this guy's obviously just been, touched by the Almighty. I mean, everything is going your way. I suppose the question is why? Why is it so good? Let's go back. You mentioned the Chinese. Let's keep this as simple as one can about rare earths, because rare earths can be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. But the reality is, this project in Canada has the rare earths that the Western world desperately wants. It's the rare earths that China has its foot on, that it can turn the tap on and off as it's been doing in its discussions with Trump and co. These are exactly the rare earths that the Western world wants to substitute those that it relies on China for.
Absolutely, and the Ashram project is, in my opinion, and I've been in this space for the last 8 years, Paul. So I've looked at, I think, nearly every project on the planet over time in all sorts of different flow sheets. I mean, previous experience was in ionic clays. Again, a very different flow sheet to what we see in the hard rock, but this particular project is of scale. It's 200 million tonnes. They've been drilling this for the last 10 or 15 years. It's an enormous plug of carbonatite. It's beautifully, the symmetry is beautiful. It's a very low strip proposition. So the front end of this story with regards to mining is very low risk. It's going to be around for a long time, and it's the right sort of ore body to fold into building a wide and varied ecosystem further downstream as well. So
So if this Ashram project and this deposit is so good, it's got the rare earths that the Western world wants, it's sitting there in a tier 1 jurisdiction, you have to ask the question, if it's so good, why has it been dormant for 15 years?
It's a great question again, and I think it really comes down when you look at the scale of this, and there's been an awful lot of drilling done, and perhaps in some aspects maybe too much. This story could have been promoted at a much earlier phase. with the remaining tonnes caught up, for instance, when this project's up and running and into production. It's still open at depth. We've still got more. We've got tonnes above the 200 million. But I guess, the time is right now to really hit the development button. So we've really, we've stopped that sort of look and feel around the exploration story with regards to the Ashram project. It's all about development now, and there's there's some other logistical constraints which make this project a challenge. But as I said before, the thematic, the support that we're seeing from government in this space, this is the right time to hit the button and get those commitments from government with regards to getting those access.
Now, one of the answers, I suppose, to that obvious question, why hasn't this been developed before now, rests in what you just then referred to as the logistical challenges. Now, that is essentially, in simple terms, logistical challenges is a lovely mining guy's way of saying we need a road to connect this project to the world, particularly connect the project to the port. The road presumably allows us to get the development and construction equipment in and ultimately allows us to get the product out.
Definitely, yeah.
And so without a road, it's an isolated project.
It is. It absolutely, it is probably the best rare earth project in North America with regards to a resource and the network that's been done that underpins the quality of that asset. But it does need an infrastructure.
How long is this road that's needed?
Look, there's a couple of options we've got on the table. We can go north to a port to the town of Kuujjuaq. That's 130 odd k's. We can come south to a town called Shefferville and then connect onto a rail link down to an all-weather port. So, and there's other options heading out to the west as well. But for us and the government, we're really sort of looking closely at all those three. We've still got a little bit of work to do with regards to picking a winner in that space. But the southern routes are certainly looking very appealing to me at this stage.
These lengths you're talking, a few hundred kilometres and like.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're pittance in the scheme of things. Look at the roads and the railways that have been built in the Pilbara decades ago. If the Western world, really wants to get its hands on this and Trump and everyone else says there's no choice, we must do this, surely a 300-kilometre road is not going to stand in the way.
Paul, I totally agree with you, and I think getting some sort of commitment out of government is entirely achievable in the very short term. Carney made a really one of the most exciting things I'd heard in the rare earth space until it was trumped, for want of a better word, by the MP deal a few weeks later. But Carney announcing that Canada's going to 5% of GDP spending for NATO defence was remarkable, and of that 5%, 1.5% of that is absolutely focused and earmarked for critical mineral projects, and the bit that caught my interest was infrastructure. So, ports, roads, rail links to support those isolated assets that they have, particularly in the northern part of Canada. It's becoming a real focus for government, and our particular story with the size of the resource, the quality of the network that we're seeing folds beautifully into that thematic, Paul.
So, given that you tick both that critical mineral box that Carney talks about and the infrastructure box that he's willing to help fund, will you be putting your hand up for some Canadian government money for this project?
Absolutely. And that's really going to be probably 90% of my focus over the next 6 months or so. Right. Getting in front of government. We've already started that process, so we're getting really good traction at the provincial level. We're getting really good traction at the Indigenous group level as well. They certainly want to see access opened up in that area for their own reasons. And we don't want to own this piece of infrastructure. We want it to be a government-owned piece of infrastructure that benefits everyone. Local people, Indigenous groups, other exploration companies, and quality assets like our own. They all deserve to have a pathway to get these opportunities up and running, and we just want to be a small part of that. Now,
what do you know about this deposit? You say it's exactly the sort of rare earths that the Western world wants. We can solve the road. The road, I find it hard to believe, can be such a sticking point. I'm sure that will be resolved over
we'll
time.
get there, Paul, for sure.
Yeah, so you tick those boxes. So ultimately it comes down to the quality of the deposit. What do you know about that deposit? What work has been done on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and this is one of the things that really got me excited about this particular opportunity when it was first put in front of me. Look, an enormous amount of tonnes. This is a multi-generational deposit, but the most important thing, and this is where a lot of these projects fall over, and there's a lot of great headline grade numbers that you see with rare earth projects. There's a lot of great basket numbers that you see for rare earth projects. But does it work? And this one absolutely does. Mother Nature's been very kind to us. In that very first instance, the monazite that's contained in that carbonatite floats beautifully. We get really good flotation kinetics. And what that means is when you crush up that ore and you put it through a very simple and standard flotation process, we see really good recoveries. We produce a really good quality concentrate. And that gives you options, and this is where a lot of projects really struggle. If you don't produce a good quality concentrate, then you don't have a saleable product in that first instance. We probably do, but we can also look at going further downstream as well.
So at the moment, how far down that production chain do you intend to go?
Look, as I said before, we have options. So, we know we produce a really good float concentrate. We could possibly stop there, but I think there's some real opportunities, and Canada is really, really supportive of going further downstream within country at the moment. So going further downstream, and I'm not talking about doing this on site. I think for us it's best to dislocate these processes. But going to that next stage and producing that mixed rare earth carbonate, which is done through a process which we call sulfation bake. You add acid to the concentrate, you put it into a roaster, and you artificially age that or speed up that aging process, and you break down those very robust monazite minerals, and you release those rare earth elements. Now, we can do that anywhere, and there's some really interesting conversations with government at the moment about where they would like to see these sorts of critical mineral processing hubs, and we're certainly supportive.
Presumably that needs a fair bit of energy to achieve that too.
Yeah, it does. Not as much as you would think, but certainly you need to have access to gas. You do need power.
And is that an option in Quebec?
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess the most interesting thing for us, and really attractive thing too, is that these sort of hubs that they're looking at are adjacent to really strong logistical opportunities as well. In this case, we're looking at a port, so we're directly adjacent to a port, so we have that ability to ship that concentrate in, and then those finished products, that mixed rare earth carbonate, which needs to go off to industry and be separated out into those individual oxide elements, has an opportunity to get on a boat and escape and go other places as well.
So let's look at the economics of this, or the financial proposition. You've just raised $10 million.
Yep.
That's been raised following the merger, or as part of the merger.
Correct.
Between the TSX as a company commerce and Mont. So at the time of this discussion, Mont's just in the process of relisting on the ASX. What will be the market cap, the EV, etc.?
Look, we're looking at an enterprise value of around $25 million, and then and a market cap of around 35. So that EV value comes along with the consolidation that's going on, the merger of the two companies, and then that money that we've raised. We've also got a serious lick of flow through capital money coming back from both entities towards the end of the year, and it's something we keep forgetting about. But there's around $2.5-3 million there.
Right.
Which will be coming into the coffers as well. So that's a nice little top-up for us towards the end of the year, early next year, that we're expecting to see, and we can certainly use it, as I said, focus really on development stories going forward.
So it's still a very low market cap in the scheme of things compared to some of these other rare
we are super cheap, Paul. If you look at our 200 million tonnes, if you look at our contained NdPr and you compare it to, I dare you to go out and find another company that has contained NdPr that's as cheap as ours.
So with the $10 million raising, I gather from talking to brokers that there was an absolute crush to get into the IPO.
There certainly was, yeah. No, they closed the book very quickly, just over an hour, I believe. So Canaccord running that process. Yeah. There was a lot of excitement, a lot of fervour around that. And, it was a really frothy time. So it was, again, a perfect time to go out and shake the can.
I mean, some people would say, well, if there was so much demand, and why did you only raise $10 million?
It's a good question. We knew we had, and I spoke about this flow-through tax return that's coming back to us. So we knew we had another couple of $1 million out there that was due to come back to us later in the year. Looking back now, should we have taken more? I'm probably the first guy to put the hand up and say yes, absolutely, we should have.
But you minimised dilution. I mean, obviously, the flip side of that coin is you minimise dilution. You get to work. You get some runs on the board. You get the share price up.
Correct.
And at some point, when you've got to go back to the well, you can do it at a much higher price and reduce the dilution.
Absolutely. And look, there's some really interesting things happening in the Canadian space too with regard to flow through. So they are, they're looking to certainly open up those rules. It's not just about exploration now. Well, we're hoping that's the way it's going to play out, but that's certainly what's been proposed to government. But they are looking to open up those rules and also include things like met test work, studies, environmental baseline tests.
So they go from being the flow-through bit comes from not just money spent on exploration, but also on development and research.
Exactly.
Well, that would really change the economics for shareholders, wouldn't it? The amount of money coming back into the coffers.
Oh, for sure. And, we're anticipating, we're looking at that sort of, anticipating that sort of opportunity. And we are certainly planning around that. So, if we see, and we're looking to see a certain appreciation of the share price over time. This is a great story. particularly with when we get that commitment out of government. We're really focused on that. I think that's going to be a re-rate and potentially a great time to go out there and chase some of this flow through capital as well.
So as all the hoo-ha over the raising and the resumption of trading for Mont on the ASX and all that takes place, you get down to work. What's the priority?
I think I've mentioned it a few times already, Paul. It's really about getting some sort of commitment out of government on an access rate. That's really important.
Does that form part of a revised economic assessment, though?
It certainly does, yeah. So that's part of it. But that commitment, that all-important commitment, and it's been telegraphed beautifully by government. They are saying that they will support these sorts of projects through logistics, and so I think we're a prime candidate for that. So we're going to be really
that's the
pushing
game changer, isn't it? Some sort of government assistance, particularly with the road and the like.
Correct.
That unlocks the value.
Absolutely. What industry needs to see, and we are talking to industry already. But what industry needs to see is, some sort of escape route for these molecules. They need to get out to market. So for industry to connect to those molecules, we need an infrastructure piece. But beyond that, we're also looking. We've got a PEA which is about 50% complete. We've got a bit of work to do to recast that. We're going to be relaunching that very soon, within the next few weeks. So we've got the money now to go and do that. So we'll kick off the PEA. We'll have that closed off in that first quarter of next year. Then it's really about building a very small but focused team. And when I say small and focused team, I mean we really need to. We've already got a government relations person in place who's doing a great job. We've got Pete Roosters come across. He'll be head of corporate development. He's come across from the Mont Royal transaction. But we need a project manager. We need to bring these disciplines into the tent, and that's something that's been lacking with this project for a long time. So project manager, metallurgical manager, heart and soul of the project. There's an awful lot of work to do in that space. There's never enough work done in the met space, as far as I'm concerned. And environmental manager as well. So someone who's going to come in and start owning those baseline studies and taking that permitting process forward. So we'll go forward over the next 12 months or so. You'll see those key positions being brought into the company, filling those spaces, and we'll have that really close and tight ownership of the story going forward.
Right, and the team also at a board level has got a lot of experience in resources projects.
They do.
And that's really what Mont has brought to the story, hasn't it? I mean, Commerce brought the deposit, Mont's brought people, access to capital, experience.
Absolutely. There's some really well-known entities on the Mont Royal register which are coming across. In particular, we've got Michael O'Keefe from the Champion Iron story. He's a real supporter of the critical mineral space. He's really keen to see Ashram go ahead. So, he's had an awful lot of success and a lot of runs on the board in not only in Quebec but also in Canada in general. So, very much looking forward to to having him on the register and occasionally seeking his counsel. I think in some of these conversations,
he's hit the ball out of the park on numerous occasions.
He has, yeah.
To have such a strong vote of confidence, have someone like Michael O'Keefe on the register, it probably says more about the outlook for the project than you and I could.
I think so too, and there's a lot of cachet that comes along with that, and as I said, at the government level.
And a lot of door opening at government levels.
Well, we'll see, but I think, this project's certainly got enough clout in its own right to go and open those doors itself, but there's nothing wrong with having a second person behind you to help you.
Now, people listening to this would say, well, what sort of production profile can we expect? What's this thing likely to do? I mean, let's put it in the context of a Lynas. How does this project, what similarities does this project have with Lynas and its Mount Weld project?
I think if you look at the deposit itself, we certainly don't have that grade, but we've got really strong flotation kinetics. So as I said before, we do produce a very good quality concentrate. Our basket is very similar. We've got a good lick of neodymium, praseodymium that come along in that basket, around 22% of the basket. We've got about % of our basket is dysprosium and terbium, those all important heavies which are required for those magnet finishing processes. The dysprosium and terbium are required as a heat treatment element to magnets. High-end magnets need a little and it is pixie dust. We're talking about really small proportions of dysprosium and terbium that go into these magnets, but they're required to give that performance edge to these high performance magnets. They don't dig out. They don't lose their coercivity when they get hot, and that's really important. When you're driving your Porsche Taycan next time, Paul, you'll appreciate that.
So I'm more of the Cooper S variety myself. So if you sort of look at the Mount Weld thing, you say, is this really the opportunity here? Is to pick this up and make it a Lynas of Canada?
Oh, look, there's every chance. We've got the quality of the resource. We're beautifully positioned. We're just north of that very hungry North American market. There's a whole host of industries that want to connect into that ecosystem. There's a lot of space to build out that ecosystem. It's not just about bringing mines like ours on board and having that supply. You need to have the separators. You need to have the metal makers and the alloyers, and you need to have the magnet makers in country as well. And you need lots of them. So you need a wide and varied bunch of opportunities for those molecules to go through that finishing process, and join the manufacturing supply chains that we're so much looking forward to. And dislocating out of China.
Where do you envisage this
Europe
will be
as well?
sold?
I think Europe. There's great opportunities in Europe as well.
So really, you're open to selling it to anywhere in the Western world.
Absolutely. A lot of government support typically comes with the red line, Paul, and there's very much been a focus and some strong relationships getting built up, not only in the US. I know it's a little bit shaky at the moment due to some television adverts and other things, but that relationship will that will endure. I think everyone's pretty clear on that. And there's Europe there as well, and Canada itself. They've got they're super keen on taking a lot of these industries forward. They have a large and active auto industry.
The Western world's playing catch up here, isn't it? It really is.
It certainly is. And again, it's not just about the resources. You've really got to think more about all those other bits and pieces that build out the value chain and the ecosystem. So they all need to be built out, and there's a lot of opportunities for us to connect it. Pretty much you can go as deep as you like over time, I guess, through relationships. We certainly want to stay in our lane. We're junior miners. We want to come to market either with a concentrate or a mixed earth carbonate. That's probably about as far as we want to take it. When you're getting to separation, metallisation, and magnet making,
it's not mining, is it? It's a test tube kit.
This is high tech manufacturing, that we're looking at. So we want to stick in our lane, but we're certainly happy to participate, JV, and collaborate with those opportunities further downstream as well. So,
timing's everything in business. Your timing seems absolutely perfect. And no matter what happens in these discussions between Trump and Xi and everything else, there's no changing the fundamental facts. The Western world needs what you've got.
Definitely.
It's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it needs lots of it. It needs as quick as you can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's certainly our focus.
The force is with you, as they say.
Well, it's nice when things line up.
That's
Paul.
great.
Yeah, they don't often do in the mining industry.
We won't keep any longer. You've got a lot to do. But thanks very much for your time, and we'll follow this one as it starts to build up a life on the ASX, and you get stuck into that project. All the best.
Excellent. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, Paul.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.